Story number 1, Quarantine Rotation. I arrived at the rural quarantine facility in northern Montana on the 3rd of November, 2024, for a standard 14-day rotation. My background is 8 years with the Public Health Service, 3 of those in containment protocols. The facility itself was built in 1980, 7 on federal land, roughly 40 miles from the nearest town. It had been dormant for 6 years before my assignment. My initial task was straightforward: assess the structural integrity of the isolation wards, verify the seal on the observation windows, and confirm that the environmental controls were still functional after the extended shutdown. The facility had 4 main wings, north, south, east, and west, arranged around a central monitoring station. Each wing contained 6 isolation rooms. I was told to expect no active cases. The assignment was administrative. I completed the north and south wings by the end of the first day. The seals were intact. The HVAC systems engaged without issue. I logged everything in the standard format and submitted my preliminary report to the regional coordinator. She confirmed I should continue to the East Wing on day 2. On the morning of the 4th of November, I entered the East Wing. The air felt different there, not warmer or colder. Different in a way I could not quantify. I noted it and continued. Rooms 1 through 4 were identical to those I had already inspected. Room 5 had a window that did not match the others. The glass was older, thicker, and the frame showed signs of having been replaced multiple times. The observation log beside it was empty. No dates, no entries. I photographed it and moved to room 6. Room 6 was locked from the outside. This was not standard procedure. Isolation rooms are locked from inside. I reported this to the coordinator. She told me to photograph it and continue. She did not ask me to open it. I finished the East Wing and began the West Wing on day 3. By day 5, I had completed my structural assessment. Everything was in order except for the window in room 5 of the East Wing and the reversed lock on room 6. The coordinator told me to submit my findings and await further instruction. The instruction came on day 6. I was to remain on site for the full 14 days. A team from the regional office would arrive on day 9 to conduct additional assessments. I was not told what they would be assessing. On day 7, I heard something in the ventilation system, a sound like breathing, but rhythmic in a way that did not match the HVAC cycle. I checked the mechanical room. All systems were nominal. The sound continued intermittently throughout the day. I did not report it. On day 8, I was in the central monitoring station, reviewing the facility's archived logs, when I noticed something. The logs from 1987 to 1993 contained entries for all 4 wings. After 1993, the East Wing logs stopped. The West Wing logs continued for another 2 years, then stopped as well. The North and South Wing logs continued until the facility's closure in 2018. I pulled the paper records. Entire sections had been removed. The binding showed where pages had been cut out cleanly. I reported this to the coordinator. She asked me to photograph the logs and then told me not to access the archives again. The team arrived on day 9. 3 people I had not met before. They did not introduce themselves by name. They carried equipment I did not recognize and moved directly to the East Wing. I was instructed to remain in the central station. I heard them open room 6. I heard them moving inside. The sound lasted approximately 40 minutes. Then they sealed the room again and left the wing. One of them came to find me. She told me that the facility would require additional work and that my assignment was being extended. I would remain for 10 more days. She did not explain what the work would entail. On day 11, I was asked to assist with environmental sampling in the East Wing. I was given protective equipment, more extensive than standard protocol required, and told to work in pairs with one of the team members. We sampled the air in rooms 1 through 4. The results were normal. We did not sample rooms 5 and 6. On day 13, I found something in my quarters. A single page, handwritten, placed on my bunk. The handwriting was not mine. The text was not in English. I did not recognize the script. I photographed it and placed it in an evidence bag. I did not report it immediately. That evening, the breathing sound in the ventilation system became louder. It was no longer rhythmic. It was irregular, almost gasping. I went to the mechanical room. The HVA high was operating normally. The sound was coming from inside the walls. I reported this to the coordinator. She said the team would address it. She asked me not to investigate further. On day 14, the team conducted a final walkthrough of all 4 wings. I was not asked to accompany them. They spent the majority of their time in the East Wing. When they finished, they packed their equipment and left. One of them handed me an envelope before departing. Inside was a letter on official letterhead. It stated that my assignment had been completed satisfactorily and that I was to return to my regional office on the following day. It also stated that I was not to discuss the contents of my assignment with any personnel outside the regional coordinator's office. It further stated that any records I had generated during my stay would be classified and archived accordingly. I left the facility on the morning of the 17th of November. The breathing sound in the ventilation system had stopped by the time I departed. I do not know when it stopped. I did not check. The page I found in my quarters was included in my report. The coordinator told me it would be handled separately. I have not been asked about it since. My assignment has been marked complete and filed under restricted access. I have been reassigned to a facility in Colorado. The facility in Montana has been scheduled for decommissioning. No further rotations are planned. Story number 2, Easement Verification. I was assigned to conduct a boundary survey for a property transfer in Mercer County, West Virginia. 2 families had disputed a wooded tract line for 3 generations. The county clerk, when I collected the historical records, mentioned that previous surveyors had submitted incomplete reports. She attributed this to difficult terrain and poor record, keeping from the 1800s. I noted the comment, but did not consider it significant at the time. I arrived at the site on a Tuesday morning in late September. The weather was clear. I established my first benchmark at the southeastern corner without difficulty. The stone marker was where the plats indicated it should be. I photographed it, recorded the coordinates, and proceeded northwest along what the historical documentation identified as the original survey line. At approximately 400 feet into the tree line, my GPS unit began reporting my position as stationary despite my continuous forward movement. I checked the device. It showed no loss of signal. The display simply refused to update. My digital theodolite registered angles that violated basic geometric principles when I attempted to measure the bearing between 2 visible reference points. The angles summed to values that were mathematically impossible. I recalibrated the instrument twice. The readings remained inconsistent. I located a series of boundary stones along what I estimated to be the correct line. These stones appeared clearly in my theodolite's viewfinder, but not through direct sight. When I looked away from the instrument, the stones were not visible. When I looked back through the lens, They were there. I documented this in my field notes as a visual anomaly, possibly related to vegetation density or light refraction, and continued the survey using only the instrument's readings. Following protocol, I attempted to radio my findings to the county office at 10:45 in the morning. I reported the GPS malfunction and the theodolite inconsistencies. The dispatcher acknowledged my transmission. Then I heard my own voice come back through the radio, 7 seconds after I had finished speaking. The voice repeated my report, but with different phrasing. I had said the theodolite was registering impossible angles. The voice said the angles were registering impossibilities. The voice used words I would not have chosen. I did not recognize the tone as mine. Though the accent and speech pattern were identical to my own, I attempted to contact the county office again. No response came. I waited 5 minutes and tried once more. The same 7-second delay occurred. Again, my voice returned with a variation of what I had said. I powered down the radio and did not attempt further contact. At that point, I made a decision that was outside standard procedure for certified surveys. I abandoned the electronic instruments entirely. I retrieved my chain and compass from the truck. I completed the boundary measurement using only these tools, establishing the line by physical pacing and magnetic bearing. This method is less precise than modern instruments, but it is reliable and does not depend on electronic systems. The work took longer. I did not leave the tree line until 4:20 in the afternoon. When I exited at the northwestern terminus, I opened my field notebook to record the final measurements. I found that the notebook already contained 2 separate surveys of the same boundary. Both surveys were in my handwriting. Both were dated that same day. The measurements differed by 37 feet. One set of measurements matched the historical plat. The other set did not. I had no memory of conducting the second survey. I had no memory of writing those notes. I examined the notebook carefully. The ink in both surveys was the same. The paper showed no evidence of tampering. The handwriting was mine. The second survey contained measurements that I would not have recorded. The angles were wrong. The distances were inconsistent with the terrain I had walked. I did not attempt to explain this. I submitted the survey that matched the historical plat. I filed the second set of notes separately in a sealed envelope marked for administrative review only. I recommended that the property transfer proceed with an easement restriction prohibiting structural development within 50 feet of the disputed line. I did not mention the duplicate documentation in my formal report. The case was closed as resolved. Both families accepted the boundary. The transfer completed without further dispute. My field notes were archived under administrative seal. No explanation was provided for the duplicate documentation. I was reassigned to a different county the following month. I have not been assigned to Mercer County since. The incident remains classified as a closed matter. Story number 3, backup generator. I arrived at the Kansas facility at 0600 on a Tuesday in March. The site supervisor met me at the gate with the access logs and a thermos of coffee I didn't ask for. 2 junior technicians, Chen and Reeves, were already inside the climate control vestibule running preliminary diagnostics. The contracted electrician, a man named Garrett, whose company had serviced the facility for 8 years, was checking the power distribution manifold on sublevel 1. The assignment was straightforward. A scheduled server migration during the maintenance window. The facility had been running legacy storage arrays since 2011, and the hardware was approaching end of service. We were moving everything to the new climate, controlled vault on sublevel 3, which had been constructed over the past 6 months. The work was expected to take 2 days. I had done this type of supervision 7 times before at different sites. Initial diagnostics showed normal parameters across all systems. Temperature stable at 58 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity at 32%, power draw within expected ranges. The backup generators cycled normally. I walked the sublevel 2 corridor with Chen, while Reeves began the physical transfer of the first storage array. The facility was quiet. The hum of the HVAC system was the only sound. The lights were fluorescent panels set into the concrete ceiling, casting even illumination across the rows of server racks. Everything was as documented. At 08:30, Garrett called me over the radio. He was in Corridor C, Sublevel 2. He said Junction Box 7 was drawing power. I asked him to confirm. He said the box was drawing power despite being disconnected from the grid for the past 18 months, according to the facility records he had reviewed. I told him to stand by and made my way to Corridor C. The junction box was mounted on the wall approximately 4 feet from the floor. It was a standard industrial unit, weathered gray metal with a hinged cover. I placed my hand on it. It was warm. Not hot, but distinctly warm, as if it had been energized for hours. I could feel a faint vibration through the metal, rhythmic and consistent. I opened the cover. There was no wiring inside. No circuit breakers, no terminals, no components of any kind. The interior was a smooth metallic surface, polished or machined to a uniform finish. When I directed my flashlight into the box, the beam reflected at angles that did not correspond to the geometry of the opening. I watched the light bend away from the surface and then return to my eyes from a direction that was not possible given the size and shape of the enclosure. I closed the cover and called Garrett back. I told him to return to sublevel 1 and wait for me there. I was moving toward the stairwell when Chen's voice came through the radio. He said Reeves was reporting severe vertigo. Chen said he was experiencing it too. Their words were clipped unsteady. I ordered an immediate evacuation to sublevel 1. I reached the stairwell access door and entered my override code. The panel showed a red light. I entered it again. Red light. I tried the manual release. The door did not move. I radioed Chen and asked if they had reached the stairs. Chen did not respond. I tried the override code 3 more times. The door remained sealed. The facility's automated voice system began speaking. It announced room numbers and corridor designations. Sublevel 2, Section 7. Sublevel 2, Section 12. Sublevel 2, Section 9. The designations did not correspond to any section listed in the architectural plans I had reviewed that morning. The voice repeated the sequence. Sublevel 2, Section 7. Sublevel 2, Section 12, Sublevel 2, Section 9. It continued for 47 minutes. I counted. I stood at the stairwell door and listened to the sequence repeat. When the voice system stopped, the door unlocked. I heard the mechanism disengage. I opened the door and climbed to sublevel 1. Chen and Reeves were sitting on the concrete floor near the emergency equipment locker. Both men appeared disoriented but responsive. Garrett was standing near the power distribution manifold, watching the readouts. He said all the anomalous readings had ceased when the voice system stopped. All systems were showing normal parameters. I made the decision to seal sublevel 2 entirely using the emergency containment protocol. This protocol is reserved for catastrophic coolant leaks or critical system failures that pose a risk to the structural integrity of the facility. I was not authorized to deploy it without consulting Regional Command. I did not consult Regional Command. I entered the protocol code into the emergency panel. The system asked for confirmation. I confirmed. The heavy steel bulkhead doors at both ends of sublevel 2 descended and locked into place with a sound like a gunshot. We completed the surface evacuation at 11:15. I submitted standard maintenance completion forms with no incident flags. I noted that the migration had been postponed due to equipment malfunction and that the facility would require additional inspection before resuming the transfer. I did not mention the junction box. I did not mention the voice system, or the sealed stairwell, or the smooth metallic surface that reflected light in impossible ways. The facility was reclassified for remote monitoring only. No personnel would be assigned to sublevel 2. The automated systems would continue to run, and telemetry would be collected remotely from the regional office. Chen accepted a transfer to a facility in Oklahoma. Reeves accepted a transfer to a facility in Nebraska. I was instructed to remove sublevel 2 from all future inspection routes and to direct any future maintenance requests to the regional office for remote resolution. The incident has been archived under Facility Code 7749 and classified as a routine equipment malfunction. No further action is required.